All right. So there is one more scenario where industry-wide people are relying manually without writing automation test. So which is checking an integration between backend and UI. Okay. So there are many cases that you might come across a bug when you are integrating your backend code to render on the UI. Now let's take the same example. So here you see all the records came as a response. So what does the developer do? He will make sure that every record showing in the response have to come on the table here. But are you exactly checking that whether the response what you come from the API is matching here? So when you test, people might test that whether column names are present and tables are displaying. But can your automation check? When I say automation, it's a Selenium, like any other QTP, Selenium, or whatever you use, protractor or anything. So can your automation tool can validate whether the data what you see here is the correct data? You can't tell that. You can do only UI level automation, but you cannot put a validation to see whether data is correct or not. For that, you have to compare the data what you are getting from your API response, and that response and this is matching. That kind of validation you cannot do with a pure front end tool, but using Cypress, as you have access to the network level, you can compare and see the response what you are getting from your API call. That response data is correctly rendering on the browser or not. Okay, so I'll explain you one scenario where there went a huge bug in Barnes and Nobles. So that is one hub of library. So you can Google about Barnes and Nobles. So what happened? Like an API gave you a response with a 14 records. Okay, let me show you. Yeah. So 14 records you got in your API response, and when user is trying to render on the front end, so they'll just have a for loop like this, like for I equals to 0 and I less than 14, and they will ask to render all in the front end using any front end tools like Angular or React. If they forget and start from index 1, then they will skip first record. Okay, so this is an array of 14 records, so they should start from 0th, right? If they start from 1, every time when they want to retrieve, the data will skip this 0th index. Okay, all the data what they will see in the front end will start from first index, because that guy have written a wrong code in interpreting that JSON response. Okay, so that you have to catch. You have to make sure the data what you are coming from response and front end both are same or not. That kind of integration you have to perform, which we call as an integration testing. Okay, so to catch this bug, in our scenario, we want to make sure that number of records our API is giving should be equal to number of rows present in this table, isn't it? So right now our API is giving 50 records. So that's why we have a 50 tables or 50 rows, sorry, 50 rows here. So that you have to put validation. For that, you really need not use a real mock response, because you never know how much records that API is returning every day, because that data is dynamic and people will say that we cannot automate it. Today it returned 50. If you put an assertion in your Angular that it's written 50, tomorrow it might return less. So for that also, let's rely on this mock data only. So what we can do here, let me put a logic that let's get the length of the response array, and that length of response array should match with the rows of the table, even if it is the real data or mock data, doesn't matter. So if you have this validation, your test will pass. And if somebody misses this logic, and if they mess up with any logic, then obviously number of rows in the table will not match with the length of the array, right? So +1 or -1 will be difference. So this is the assertion you want to put and say that you have properly tested that what you are getting from backend to front end, kind of integration testing scenario. So how would you do that? Let's see. So if you want to get the length of the response array, first of all you should have the access to response what browser is giving. So right now you don't have access to response. You marked your response, that's all. So how you can get access to response? There is a way here. So you have cy.wait, right? So this wait method will resolve the reference, and here on this wait itself, that will, after this promise is resolved, it will give two properties for us. One is a request property and one is a response property. You can write like this, request and response. Okay, right. So this request will hold the information about what is the request went to this end URL, and the response will be the what is the response you got from this endpoint. Okay, so in this case we are only concerned about the response. So what you can do here, response dot body. So response object holds this information, right? When you say response dot body, then you will be able to retrieve this. And ultimately this is an array, isn't it? If you observe carefully, this is an array and there is one index in it. And if you want to length of the array, if you want to know the size of the array, it's very simple, right? You can do dot length. This will give you the size of that array. So right now as you are marking this, this should return only one record. Okay, so that means as it is returning only one record, here you should see only one row. So how would you test it? So for that, what I will do, I'll right click, inspect. You can use tools like CrowPath or Selectors Hub to validate your XPath or CSS. You see, for every row there is a tag called tr. So if there are 10 rows, you will see 10 trs. In our case, we are marking the response, so there will be only one row. So when I do tr, right now it is giving 51. Okay, 50 rows actual data plus 1 is nothing but your header. Okay, so every time plus 1 you have to do because you are getting header as an extra tr. So in this case, when you mark, you will have only one row and one header. So that means total 2 trs only you should have with your marked data. Okay, so let's put a validation in that way. So first I will get the count of the tr tags, cy.get. You already know how to get the size of the tags, right? We have done many examples in the past. If not, I would recommend you to check out my previous lectures where we have done extensive exercises on retrieving the row count, column count. So using tr tag, I retrieved the number of rows, and this length, I'm putting an assertion, should have dot length. So the length of this row, okay, that should match with your response dot body dot length, isn't it? Okay, so this response dot body length is 1. For one row, how many trs you should see? 2. One is the original data and one is a header. Okay, so plus 1, let's do. Right, so we are adding plus 1 for the main row header, and this is our actual content. 1 plus 1, 2, and trs also should be 2 only. Okay, so this is how you can put validation and see if the response body is properly rendering on your browser. So in my case it's a tr. In your case it could be anything, other tag or any other css. Okay, so your overall goal is to make sure that how that items in that array are rendering on your browser, that related component you should take a locator and get the size. Okay, and you are able to get access to that response with the help of yielding this wait, because I explained you, right, we are waiting until this is resolved. Once this is resolved, it will yield two properties, request and response. And once you get a response and response dot body, because I shown you what are the response object properties. You can do response.body, response.status code, headers, everything. And on that body, we are applying length to get the count of this array. Okay. Let me save this and check back your Cypress test to see how that behaves. Great. It's done. You see all are pass. Expected to have length of 2, assertion pass. So let's do one magic here. I will remove or put plus 5. Okay, so it returns us only one item, plus 1 plus 5, 6. So we are making sure, asking that there are total 6 rows should be there in our page. And now it will fail. You see, it's trying to make that asset valid, but if it cannot, it failed. You see, it says I found only 2 rows, but you are asking me 6. It will fail. Now, to make this work, you can create a body with 5 more indexes. So let me create one more. I'll just add one more. Okay, so we are basically mocking our response. So this time it will return 2, right? Okay, so this should be still valid. So it returns 2 plus 1, 3, and TRs also should come 3, right? So no matter how many you pass, this is a generic statement, generic assertion, because at runtime you are getting that value. How many rows? 2 rows. And here also 2 data we are passing. So it's pass. But another thing failed here. Oh, when you don't have one book, okay, that message that sorry we have only one book will come only when you have one book. As the book number increased, it failed. Okay, so that's why make sure you mock with the right data for your right validation. Alright, so that's how you can have a check from your response side and make sure that's properly rendering on UI side. This is one kind of scenario. I'm just giving you different scenarios where you cannot achieve with other automation tools and how you can achieve same using Cypress. Right. So in the next lecture, I will modify the HTTP request because we just saw how to perform integration. Let's modify our request body and headers and see why we have to first modify it, the purpose behind it, and then let's solve using Cypress. All right. Thank you.